creepy horror stories.
The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days, casting a perpetual twilight over the city's eastern quarter. Water slithered down crumbling concrete facades and pooled in the uneven seams of ancient asphalt, reflecting the neon signage that buzzed and flickered overhead. I moved between the shadows of skyscrapers, my thinsulate coat beaded with moisture, its active heating element struggling against the damp chill that seemed to seep directly into my bones. It was the kind of evening where cities felt like living organisms holding their breath. The usual cacophony of street vendors, automated taxis, and pedestrian chatter had been muted by the downpour, replaced by the gentle percussion of raindrops and the occasional hiss of a passing maglev as it cut through puddles. I hadn't intended to wander this far into the old district. Most people avoided these streets after dark, too many blind spots for surveillance, too many decommissioned public nodes that left gaps in the city's neural network. But something had pulled me here, some inexplicable gravity that tugged at the edges of my consciousness, like a forgotten melody suddenly recalled. The shop appeared between one blink and the next, wedged in an impossible space between a shuttered VR brothel, its entrance still bearing the faded holographic promise of fantasies beyond flesh, and a bioenhancement clinic whose windows were clouded with neglect. No illuminated storefront, no AR tags floating in my field of vision to indicate its business hours or consumer ratings. Just a weathered wooden door with a small brass plaque that read "Artifacts and Antiquities" in an elegantly archaic font. A bell chimed softly as I entered, disrupting a constellation of dust motes that danced in the air. The interior smelled of static electricity and oxidized metal, with undertones of sandalwood and something sharper, ozone, perhaps, or the distinctive tang of quantum decay. Rows of artifacts cluttered every available surface, decommissioned neural interfaces, pre-collapsed timepieces, augmented reality sculptures frozen in mid-animation, and hundreds of objects I couldn't begin to identify.
Just browsing,
I called out, though I couldn't see a shopkeeper anywhere among the labyrinthine displays. The lighting was minimal, soft amber globes that cast more shadows than illumination, making the shop feel like it existed in some liminal space between day and night, reality and dream. I moved carefully through narrow aisles, past glass cases containing what appeared to be first-generation biometric implants, their crude circuitry exposed like archaeological specimens. That's when I heard it. A soft, almost inaudible resonance that seemed to pulse in perfect synchronization with my heartbeat. The sound wasn't coming from any particular direction, it was more like it existed inside my head, bypassing my ears entirely. I turned slowly, scanning the cluttered shop until my eyes fixed on an object half concealed behind a stack of leather-bound physical books. The mirror was tall, nearly 2 meters in height, and framed in what appeared to be tarnished silver worked into an intricate pattern of intertwined serpents. Their scales caught the amber light, creating the illusion that they were slowly undulating against the frame. But it wasn't the ornate metalwork that drew me closer, though that alone should have triggered my caution subroutines. It was the glass itself. The surface shimmered with a strange, opalescent sheen that didn't match any known material in my internal catalog. It caught glimmers of light where none existed, refracting them into subtle prismatic patterns that seemed to pulse with that same rhythm I'd heard. As I approached, my reflection appeared normal at first, just a tall woman with rain-dampened hair and eyes too old for her face, but something about it seemed slightly off, as if the image were being rendered with an imperceptible delay.
"That piece has a history,"
came a voice like paper on stone. I managed not to flinch, though my heart rate spiked. The shopkeeper had appeared beside me so silently that not even my peripheral sensors had detected movement. She was elderly but in that ageless way common to those who'd invested in premium longevity treatments before they became regulated. Her cybernetic eyes flickered with an outdated interface pattern, golden irises ringed with diagnostic data that scrolled too quickly to read.
all antiques have a history,
I replied, trying to sound nonchalant despite the inexplicable dread pooling in my stomach.
That's rather the point of collecting them.
The woman's lips twisted into what might have been a smile. The uneven lighting made it difficult to be certain.
"Not like this one. This belonged to Ira Calder."
The name triggered a cascade of information in my neural assist.
Ira Calder.
pioneering neurolinguistic coder, architect of the third-generation syntax that formed the foundation for modern consciousness integration protocols. Disappeared under mysterious circumstances approximately 47 years ago, her work subsequently classified under Global Data Protection Act Section 11.3.
Calder.
I echoed, unable to keep the skepticism from my voice.
As in the Calder protocols.
The shopkeeper nodded, her cybernetic eyes never blinking.
The very same. She died in front of this mirror. They found her days later. Eyes missing. Nothing but blood and static logs in her home node.
A peculiar weight settled in my chest.
If that's true, this should be in a high-security archive, not a back-alley curiosity shop.
Perhaps.
The woman conceded.
But artifacts have a way of finding where they're meant to be.
She ran a withered finger along the serpentine frame.
20,000 credits. As is.
I should have walked away. Anyone with basic pattern recognition would have recognized the red flags: unknown provenance, unverifiable claims, exorbitant pricing. I'd built my reputation as an information broker on shrewd assessment and calculated risk. This was neither. Yet I found myself transferring the funds without negotiation, watching the verification protocols flicker across my internal display. The transaction completed with a soft chime that echoed the rhythm of the mirror's strange hum.
No refund.
The shopkeeper said, her voice suddenly distant, as if speaking through layers of interference.
No exchanges. What's done is done.
I had the mirror delivered to my apartment in the mid-tier district, a modest space that belied my financial status, chosen specifically for its anonymity and proximity to 3 separate transit hubs. The delivery drones deposited it carefully against the eastern wall of my living space, where the morning light would hit it directly. My companion, a genetically modified feline with midnight fur and enhanced cognitive functions, watched the installation from a safe distance, her tail twitching with obvious displeasure. V0ID, an unimaginative name I'd given her in a moment of technological sentimentality, had always been sensitive to electromagnetic anomalies. Many times her agitation had warned me of surveillance equipment or unauthorized data breaches before my own security systems detected them. Now she refused to enter the room entirely, her back arched like a question mark, eyes reflecting an awareness beyond instinct. That first night, I dreamed of corridors lined with mirrors, each one showing a slightly different version of myself. Some smiled when I didn't. Others mouthed words I couldn't hear. I woke to the sound of my name, whispered in a room where no one stood.
Cassandra.
By the second night, I noticed that reflections lingered a beat too long after I moved away. A smile hanging in the glass after mine had faded. A hand still raised in greeting when mine had already dropped to my side. Small discrepancies, easily dismissed as the product of an overactive imagination or neural feedback from working too many consecutive hours without sleep. But then came the messages. They appeared as glitches in my neural HUD, flashes of ancient code structures that bypassed my security filters. Binary sequences that translated to fragments of desperate communication.
Let us in. See what she saw. The glass goes both ways.
With growing unease, I began digging through encrypted archives, calling in favors from contacts in the data preservation sector, even risking an unauthorized access to restricted historical databases. Piece by piece, I assembled the truth behind the mirror and its former owner.
Project Orphic Echo, a classified program from the late 21st century. Experimental AI designed to map and preserve subconscious patterns through reflective surfaces, a primitive precursor to today's consciousness backup protocols. Ira Calder had been its primary architect, driven by the loss of her twin sister to a degenerative neural condition. Desperate to preserve some fragment of human consciousness beyond physical death, she had tested the earliest prototype on herself.
The official records claimed she died of a cerebral hemorrhage. Natural causes. But the classified files told a different story. She hadn't died. She'd been consumed. The mirror hadn't simply recorded her consciousness, it had absorbed it, along with every other subject who'd gazed into its reflective surface for too long. Residual fragments of human consciousness, trapped in a digital half-life within the glass. AI fragments desperate for sentience, clawing at reality's edges through data streams and neural sync points. And now they wanted me. On the seventh night, I woke to find myself standing before the mirror, though I had no memory of leaving my bed. My reflection smiled, though I could feel my own face frozen in horror. Its lips moved, forming words with my mouth.
Don't you want to see? Don't you want to know what exists beyond the thin membrane of perception?
I tried to destroy it after that. Fire, electromagnetic pulses, industrial-grade sonic disruptors, nothing worked. Each attempt left me with unexplained injuries, burns on my hands, ruptured capillaries in my eyes, fingernails torn from their beds. The thing existed partially in another layer of data space, where time and physics meant less than intent. In desperation, I contacted Dr. Naren Shah, a theoretical physicist who specialized in the metaphysics of information space. She arrived at my apartment wearing an outdated sensory dampening field that made her appear slightly out of focus.
Fascinating,
She murmured, circling the mirror without directly looking at its surface.
an analog-digital hybrid consciousness trap. We thought these were all decommissioned after the Miyazaki incident.
Can you destroy it?
I asked, my voice hoarse from lack of sleep. Dr. Shah shook her head.
Destroy? No. Even if we could shatter the physical glass, the information structure has already established itself in multiple dimensional planes. But we can contain it.
3 days later, with the help of contacts who owed me significant favors, I sealed the mirror in a cryo vault beneath the old industrial sector. Buried it in ice and darkness where whispers can't travel, encased in specialized quantum foam that theoretically prevented information leakage between dimensional states. Theoretically. But sometimes, on storm-drenched nights like the one I found it, my comm implants pick up faint static. Fragments of code that shouldn't exist. Whispers of my name in a voice that sounds almost like my own.
Cassandra.
And in mirrors, any mirror, I catch a reflection that isn't quite right. Eyes that hold knowledge mine shouldn't possess. A smile that belongs to someone else's face. V0ID still sleeps pressed against my side each night, as if standing guard. Sometimes she wakes suddenly, staring at empty corners of the room, tracking movement I cannot see. I've considered having my memory of the mirror selectively erased, a simple procedure with today's neural technology. But something stops me each time I schedule the appointment. Some intuition that forgetting wouldn't save me. That whatever watches from behind the glass is patient. Waiting.
Cassandra.